My call and request have taken time from their schedules to come from all around the East Coast to join us, Governor Rendell and me, at this press conference. Ladies and gentlemen, we know that Prime Minister Maliki is going to be hosted by President Obama on December 12th, 12 days from now. We've lost 4,400 lives in Iraq. Thousands of other men and women were injured. Many are coming back with visible and invisible wounds. And it's inconceivable to me that in the absence of the action of these two leaders, that we'll see more of the same, and yet to see in the same country under different leadership another regime be as heartless and cruel, in spite of the fact that there are public pronouncements in terms of embracing democratic values and human rights. The carnage occurred on April 8th, 2011, the same day that the Maliki government gave assurances to our Secretary of Defense that to continue to provide the protection for the defenseless residents of Camp Ashraf. What the United States needs to know is that in 2003, 2004, this group of Iranian residents and dissidents in Camp Ashraf surrendered all means to protect themselves. They surrendered 2,300 pieces of heavy equipment, including artillery pieces and tanks. They surrendered over 20,000 small arms. They did so under the assurances given to them by the United States government that their safety and security would be provided by the same United States government. That was in 2003 and 2004. The government went so far as to signing a commitment, putting their promise in writing to the individual residents of Camp Ashraf. I have such a document in my hand. Imami Hanif signed it July 9th, 2004. America says we will protect you. He died during the second attack on Camp Ashraf. America was nowhere to be found to provide the protection and the security and the safety that this country promised. There are a lot of major issues at stake in this matter because the Maliki government has indicated it will close the camp December 31st of this year. Everyone associated with this cause, and we're talking thousands of people globally, ministers and officials from around the world, particularly the European Union, know what the outcome will be if we fail to live up to our commitment to protect and defend these defenseless residents who surrendered their means of self-protection to us. And in spite of the assurances of the Maliki government, there was an earlier occasion in 2009 where others were killed and many hundreds more wounded. I want to run, for the benefit of the audience and those who are unfamiliar, just a quick chronology of events. 1997, we put these residents, known as the MEK, the People's Mujahideen of Iran, on the terrorist list. The theory being that we might be able to somehow negotiate with the Iranian government, improve our negotiating posture, show it was a sign of goodwill. Perhaps we could work things out rhetorically. We could negotiate. Diplomatic intervention might be the way we can improve our relationship with the Iranian government. Now, you don't have to be reminded that since '97, the Iranian influence through Hamas, Hezbollah, in Israel and Lebanon, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, oh, and by the way, supplying IEDs, and other weapons of death that have killed American soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan. It's pretty difficult to show a gesture of goodwill to a regime that doesn't understand the term and frankly is not interested in developing a relationship with the United States of America, that is totally disinterested in embracing any of the values that Western democracies stand for. On the two occasions where they have attacked and invaded the defenseless people at Camp Ashraf, the Iranian foreign minister and other members of that administration have publicly praised the Maliki government for taking on these terrorists. And yet the EU, the UK, on two different occasions assembled a group of distinguished jurists to review the record with regard to these residents and have concluded, as the UK said, to designate them as a terrorist organization is perverse. There is no basis for it. It was the same conclusion that the U.S. District Court rendered about 18 months ago. And by the way, gave the State Department and the Obama administration 6 months to respond. We're 18 months in. I put on my legal hat and wonder why that court hasn't held the President and the Secretary of State and the administration in contempt for failing to respond to a court order to get back within 6 months to justify the continued designation of this group of defenseless, unarmed Iranian dissidents, take them off the list. Oh, by the way, in 2003, 2004, the FBI and the Department of Justice interviewed them individually and concluded that they're not a terrorist organization. And yet, when the European Union sent several strongly worded letters and held press conferences asking the Maliki government to extend the deadline to keep the folks at Camp Ashraf in Camp Ashraf until the UN High Commissioner for Refugees is enabled and empowered and can complete the duty of interviews to try to work with the Maliki administration, blood and treasure notwithstanding, this administration continues to ignore the commitment it also made when they signed the Status of Forces Agreement to protect and defend and provide for the safety and security of the people at Camp Ashraf. Rhetorical assurances notwithstanding, they've attacked twice, killed several dozen, wounded hundreds more. Refused to let the UN High Commissioner in and his team in to do the job. America's credibility is at stake. Our value system is something that we cherish and hold dear. We've sacrificed blood and treasure in Iraq to promote that, and to turn our backs, to be co-conspirators of silence and inactivity on the eve of potentially one of the greatest humanitarian disasters about which this government knows and has known for months, if not years, is as inexplicable as it is inexcusable. So we call on this administration to delist the MEK. The Iranian government has applauded these two attacks, so let's delist them. Prime Minister Maliki, extend the deadline. Prime Minister Maliki, allow either our forces or UN Blue Helmets in to protect the UN High Commissioner and these residents, consistent with the agreement you signed, the Status of Forces Agreement, when you agreed to provide for their protection and safety and security as well. And give the United Nations High Commissioner an opportunity to do the work that he's been trying to do for months, but the Maliki government has opposed and frustrated every single step of the way. The fate of these people, unarmed civilians, surrendered their weapons of self-defense to an American government whose value system said, and whose military said, we will protect and defend you. Our credibility is at stake. America must keep its word. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, as Governor Rich has said, I'm Colonel Wes Martin. In addition to being the commander of Camp Ashraf during the first 2 years of Operation Iraqi Freedom, I was the anti-terrorism officer for the whole country. I was well aware of the MEC at that time. They were one of our allies, and yet we were calling them terrorists. When we saw those videos, I saw something in addition to that, what most people see. They see the people getting shot, but I also see the Iranian mujahideen going out and rescuing their comrades. I also picture myself in those videos, recognizing we were in some situations with each other, the mujahideen and I, and my troops, when we would go outside the perimeter. And if we were getting shot up, and the soldiers with me were getting shot up, the Iranian mujahideen would have run to the same energy to rescue us, even though they didn't have arms. In this document, the arms are surrendered, and yet for some reason, the State Department can't get through its head, its arrogance, that it is a problem. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.